Hi there guys, this is Cassandra. I'm a Riffle in Time. I'm so glad you're here. We are finishing up the deck declutter here with the this or that video. If you didn't see last week, I did the really big yes and no's of my personal collection that I was keeping and getting rid of. But I had a selection of decks that I was kind of struggling and I was pairing them against each other, and I told you I would make a separate video, so here we are. We're gonna jump right in because we have some ground to cover today, and we have our first matchup, which is the Moonchild Tarot and the Age of Aquarius. They both have the kind of star, moon, otherworldly vibe, but I was noticing that I was really picking between them. And I don't find a lot of time I'm even going for necessarily that kind of energy directly. So it was really limited on when I was using them. And I'm having a hard time because I don't normally go for the kind of ocean-y, starseedy decks anyways. So Age of Aquarius was a jump for me, but I just thought it was really beautiful. And then Moonchild, I have realized I haven't been using for the last couple years. Again, it's not my dominant type. So I thought, honestly, the possibility of really getting rid of both of them as I was putting them back in order so that I could show you more of them, I was realizing most of the cards I'm not super drawn to. Now, the Hermit was really funny because this is one of my favorite Hermit cards. I don't know what it is about it. It might be that this was one of my first decks. Another reason it's kind of hard to think of letting go of. The Moonchild was one of my first 5 decks, I think. It was yeah, I think it was my 4th or 5th deck. And I really fell in love with the Hermit for this one. And one of my favorite kind of themes that I do find in the Age of Aquarius is the cards that are this greenery with water. I like that the earthier water vibes that when I find it. So I really enjoyed that picture, but again, obviously the other Hermit is definitely the pull, and that's what I was finding is when I'm pairing them up against each other, Moonchild is definitely pulling away. I like this this is Hanged Woman, but I mean this Death card, there were quite a few decks that I found were quite a few cards I found that really were pulling away, but there's a lot of similarities. I mean, this literally is the same picture. Obviously not, but I don't like that dolphin-y, ocean-y vibe as much. And I find that this, this tower doesn't feel very tower to me. Though there are cards, I guess, from the Age of Aquarius that I like, and I think it's beautiful, which is one of the reasons I got it. I do also have some readings with it that I have enjoyed. This, especially I'm watching as I'm putting them up there. This is a real pull away for me. At the very least, I think Age of Aquarius is going. Okay. Well, there's one. We are one closer. For now, I have the Age of Aquarius going, the Moonchild staying, and I might even keep the Moonchild just, it's one of my first decks, and I do usually pick it over the Age of Aquarius when it comes up to being head to head. Even then, I think I do not even consciously but subconsciously grab for it more. Our next pair, the Align Heart Affirmations Oracle. This, to me, is more of an affirmation deck than it is an oracle, and so I have it paired against the Inquire within. This one I actually had in the Purgatory before, and I ended up taking it out mid-video of my Purgatory collection because I really wasn't sure about letting it go. And I stand there. I think This is one of my favorite affirmation decks because I really love the black and white. I love how simple it is, and I think it's in a good way. It's simple in a good way. I think it's easy to use as a clarifier, and I think this deck doesn't need to do any more than it's doing. I think it works really well. I love to put it like as a bookmark. I love to put it in I have like a little mirror you can't see behind you, but I love to like put it on there, or like on my, I have like a chalkboard that I like to like put cards to. This, on the complete opposite spectrum, feels like it does a little more. We have different categories, which actually, let me show you the category sign. This goes the extra mile, and I think that's why it's like somewhere between an affirmation and an oracle deck, because it has different categories you can choose from. It has the intention of like, I love the little holographic heart. It's supposed to be like you put your finger on the heart to like download your message, and I think that like sweet intentionality about it makes it so special. And as I'm talking about these two, I think I'm even more certain. I think I'm gonna keep both. I've been in my head that like I don't need as many affirmation decks. Like in my head, for some reason, I'm like, have this idea that like you just need one affirmation deck. Like it's an affirmation deck. But I think I don't know where I got that idea from, but I was watching a video from a creator I actually talked about on here during my monthly favorites. Her name's Asia Vines, and she posted a video the other day. It's like, don't believe everything that you think, and to like investigate when you tell your like the facts in your head, because not everything is a fact. And I think for some reason I have in my head, I can't have too many affirmation decks. I think that might be true in the shop, but I don't think that's true for me now. And these are like two very different affirmation decks. I use them very differently. Again, I use this more as like a clarifier, or like in a more simplistic way, whereas like this one feels like energy of the day card pull, or like if I'm struggling in one of those categories, it's like I need something to, yeah, I'm keeping them both. I'm keeping them both. It's one of those things, is like why I love having these conversations with you and doing these videos, is because I like really find myself solidified in my opinion sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like thinking of getting rid of them and talking to you about it, I just like realized like something I wouldn't have if I was just thinking in my head. I hope that makes sense. Next up are two decks that might be a little weird paired together, and I'm going to tell you why I paired them together. But this is the Small Spirits Oracle, and this is the Empty Cup. And the Empty Cup I've had for a long time, and always paired with the this is the Oracle deck that Stacia made, which she created the Sasarai Beto Tarot. So I used them a lot together. But I am on a kind of like downswing of using the Sasarai Beto. I have not been using it as much. It was one of my first decks, and that is a theme I'm seeing, that I'm spending a lot less time with my older decks because I have a lot of new decks in. And then this one's like a brand spanking new deck. 1 point goes to just these edges. We need to look at them. Do you see? Sorry, I probably just like yelled in your ear, but the edges. One of the reasons I'm pairing these together is because they're both an Oracle deck, and I am trying to trim some Oracle decks for my collections. And also, one of the things I love about both of them is this like muted vibe. Now, this has pops of color. There are cards in this that have color. There are also cards in this that are like full black instead of the white. Not as many though. I would say less than half of the deck does have color. I'll just show you some. This also has some like darker bugs. So we have like gnats and fleas, and I really did like that because I feel like a lot of animal decks, and especially like if you do see any bugs at all, you're usually seeing like the prettier, nicer of the bugs. And I thought it was really cool that this was so well rounded in its bugs. But if you're seeing, like, there are colored ones, but there's definitely more of that muted. And then there is a moth in here. There's actually a couple bugs in this one. But though they are different in a lot of ways, like this is very like, I don't know if like insect, bug, like what the word I need there is, but this is like really focused on that. This has a bigger variety of things in it. This I can use, oh, there's some mayflies, but this is more encompassing maybe. They feel like, to me, what I love about both of them, the other one has the detriment. So I really love this one more because of the more muted colors. This stays more muted, whereas that has like the color pops. But like the guidebook on this, really like the guidebook on this one. I find that I leave it feeling more connected to the message. I also feel like this has like a bigger variety of things. Like I said, it's like not just one thing, whereas this is, again, a whole deck of one thing. But I do love how the meanings really span from, they're not just all light and happy, which I think a lot of times when I get into like animal energy or like decks like that, they're all like the pretty nice ones. Whereas like, again, there's like maggots in this, which I think is really cool. But I don't feel any closer to an answer. And I will do some side by side. Maybe I pair them together and keep both. I think what I might do is I might keep these both on the table and use them a little more, because it's been, again, a long time since I've used this one, and the other one is very new. And maybe I give it some time and see if having them out and in the forefront helps me make a better decision, because I don't feel any closer. What I will say is I've said before, I don't pull towards like animal energy very often. I actually got this deck because it was during, I was like really drawn to it, and during the creator's birthday, I think it was, they did a really great sale on the deck, and I wanted to try it out. I don't know if I've given it enough time to try out, but I don't normally reach for like the animal kingdom when I'm working with cards. Again, one exception to that rule has been like Oak Ash and Thorn, Smoke Ash and Ember, and like Thistledown, because I think something Adam does really well is he gives like a personification to his creatures. They feel so alive. They feel really like their expressions are very relatable, if that makes sense. I'm torn between putting them both in the purgatory and seeing if I ever grab for them again, or putting them both out and working with them and seeing. Actually, I'm going to put them on the table to work with them and see if I'm... That's what I'm going to do. Though I feel as Oracle decks, they have a lot less possibility of staying. Next, I have the Witch's Tarot and then the Somnia Illustrated Edition. These are both darker decks in my collection, and I'm finding that for me personally, I have the Somnia Tarot, the like original edition, that's the photograph that I just especially recently trimmed, and I'm not pulling for this one at all. The one reason I thought about keeping this is because not only is it beautiful, but I thought about bringing it into the shop because I do stand by. This is very well done. It's a very beautiful deck, but I don't think there is... Okay, I had to go get my son off the bus. They're downstairs playing, having a good time. We're gonna continue having a good time here. We were talking about the Witch's Tarot and the Somnia Tarot Illustrated Edition. And I was saying how, I believe I was saying how, I don't think there is a world where I choose the illustrated edition over the photography for me. But I really love the illustrated. I think it's so well done that it is considered, like it's in consideration to be in the shop. So I've been chewing over that because if so, I need to keep it so that I can then share it and also like take photographs of it and put it in the shop. And then the Witch's Tarot is out of stock in the shop, and I'm considering whether I restock it. So this is really a this or that for the shop. One of the downsides to the Witch's Tarot is most of it is full photography. Like there's not a lot of cards I can show you. I'm going to show you what I can, and I will show you some of the illustrated at the same time. They both have a darker vibe, which is why I paired them together, because I do try to keep a really good balance in the shop. And I want to make sure, like when I'm bringing in shadowier decks, that I'm also able to bring in the opposite in balance. And if I have two Somnias and this, including like my other decks that I have, like the Ritual Tarots, also a little on the darker side. I have a lot of things kind of functioning in this way right now. Yeah. What I will say is I really love the Witch's Tarot for the, I don't know anything else like it. I also love a rose petal finish. I am not gonna lie, that's who I am. I love a rose petal finish. And there are a lot of extra cards in here, which I think is really cool. I think the photography is very well done. There's not a lot of photography decks out there. There are some really cool edits that were made to all of these. I don't know if right now I'm like using either of them. And I think what I really want is to have Somnia, the original, be as well done as this. The first edition of the Somnia Tarot is like too big for my hands, and it has a top box. There's nothing wrong with the top box, but I really love the box for the illustrated. I also prefer this cardstock. So there's some changes that were made that I would really love to see. I also like this is a full like little guidebook versus like the Somnia. This version has like a little white book. So I would love to see the second edition of the Somnia Tarot, the original, come out in the same kind of style. It'd be like the blue box to this box, and I would really love to have them both in the shop together, kind of like that. I think that would be really cool. What I'm gonna do is I think I'm going to hold on to these both for the shop. In that sense, right now, I don't think personally I'm using either of them, but I do think that it would be letting them go right now for the shop is not like my best decision, because I don't want to have to buy them again, because these are my personal copies that I purchased, and I don't want to have to purchase another personal copy, you know what I mean? because the copies that you guys see on display all the time, the copies I'm showing you are my copies. Like the copies on the shop, like when I take pictures of them, I'm taking pictures of my personal copy. I don't get like a demo deck or anything. So I think it would be maybe a little hasty to get rid of one of those right now. And that brings us to our last pair up, which feels completely bonkers. But the reason I'm pairing them is not because of like how similar they are in the sense that they look anything alike or they do anything the same. Why I'm pairing them together is because they've both become these like display almost decks. Now I've talked to you about how the Legend of Tarot was kind of just displayed out on like part of my Legend of Zelda shrine I had going on, and I've actually found that the Tazama African Tarot I don't use. I love to look at it, I love to show it off, I love to but it's like I have turned it into this untouchable, like, because again it's just like such a luxurious experience, and I love to like just I love to look at it. But I do find myself, the way that I've always explained Love Oracle of Eden, it feels like taking it slow and like it's an experience, like opening it up, because it's so like, I don't know how to explain, I think it's velvet, kind of like foaming on the inside. I have to be really careful about like getting it in and out of the box. And then also it's gilded, and it's got this like beautiful, I love that like foiling on the cards. I'm scared I'm gonna hurt this time. It's definitely, I'm worried that with the cardstock that if it bent, it would like actually damage the card. So I don't riffle shuffle it. And that is something I've always said is like, if I can't riffle shuffle a tarot deck, it really limits how often I use it. I think I either need to like let go of my kind of the delicacy I use this in, because it's not often anymore that I get caught in the like, I don't want to use it because I don't want anything to happen to it vibe, but I've done it a couple times recently. One was with the Playful Heart. I'm glad that I've undone that and I'm using that copy now. But I used to do that all the time. I would never like want to hurt my decks. So it was when I learned how to riffle shuffle that I really had to like let go of that. And then I started shuffling everything crazy. But this deck still, I don't know what it is, but I can't give it that same roughness that I give some of my other decks. I think this is just a stunning deck though. This and Love Oracle of Eden are really, they're just some, oh, let me show you. I'm over here looking at it. They're just some really beautiful decks. But I don't want it to just be like this shelf decoration, if that makes sense. I want to use it. And I really love, I'm so in love with the like background changes. So like the different suits and like stuff have the like, different color backgrounds. And then with the gold popping off, I would really love to use this. I would love to use this more. I'm gonna put this out before I even get to the other deck. I'm gonna put this on my desk and I'm gonna do the same situation. I'm going to gonna see if I have it out, if I'm intentional about using it, if I'll use it. And if not, it will go. because I would love it to be used. I think it would be a beautiful deck. That might be a deck that I do like kind of giveaway situation on, where I just get it to the right person. Next, I've actually been thinking about this. Some of the choices for this deck have just not sat with me as well. Like, I think some of them do make sense to me immediately, but others, like, I have a harder time connecting to why it is they chose, like, the character that they've chosen. Or, like, there's obviously, like, there's a specific card. It's like, why did you choose the Goron for that, you know? And it just didn't make sense for me. I can see some of them. I really liked, this was actually one of the ones I did like. I liked the Magician versus the Devil being like, what happens when you use power? Like, what happens if you use it in like a different light? You know, if you use it towards like ill. But there are a lot of situations where I feel like I'm not sure. And I also find that I do not love the borders or the cardstock. If you see, I've not used this deck barely at all. And this deck has showing more wear than some of my cards that I've really done a number to. You know, I've really given it all. I've maybe shuffled to use that a handful of times at most, like maybe 5 times. And this poor box, again, this has been mainly a display deck, and it has not been holding up for it. And I don't have a guidebook, so I can't even figure out the choices. I have seen another Legend of Zelda Tarot that I thought maybe I would have liked more. But I think it's time for this one to go. I don't think that I'm connecting to the choices, and without investing, because you'd have to buy the guidebook, without investing further into a deck I'm not sure about, I don't think that's a good idea. I feel good about keeping most of the ones I've chose to keep. I am feeling a little unsure still about the Empty Cup and the Small Spirits. Even having them sitting out, it's like with my intention to use it, I don't want to, it feels like. I think that says enough. Worst case scenario, it goes into the purgatory box, and if I change my mind, they can come back out. I think that says enough though. Like, them sitting on the desk, I wanted to put them away. I think we've done it, guys. So we have an additional 4 decks that left on top of the decks that left in the original deck Declutter. Let's get a count going. I did have a couple come out of stock in the shop into the collection, so I'm at 31 decks technically in my private collection, which is 1 more than the maximum. A lot of those decks are actually decks that are just kind of in between of being in the shop and out. I think a lot of those next year will be back in stock in the shop, so they will be part of the shop collection again. And that would put my collection probably closer to the 20 range, if I'm not including decks that are just like in the void right now. So I think I have done a good portion of what I intended to do, and they all fit on the shelf, I'm pretty sure. I'm actually going to put them back and we'll see, I guess. But from the looks of it, I love you. Thank you for being here. This video has been broken into a few pieces, so if it seems weird altogether, just love me.